Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the January 21st, 2026 Ways and Means Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Gold,
Present.
Alderman Gould,
Here.
Alderman Erger,
Here.
and Alderwoman.
I'm here. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Seeing no changes, it will be approved by acclamation. Citizen comment. I don't see any citizens in the room. Is there anyone online who looks like? Okay, great. Moving right along to report of committee chair and alderman. I have no report. Alderwoman Goad.
No report.
Alderman Gould.
No report.
Alderman Erger.
No report.
It doesn't appear that there's a city administrator report, so we are clipping right along to department reports and the investment report, and I see Brad up in the square.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for having me. Yes, so I just to give you a review of everything. In total, all interest earnings from the beginning of our relationship to the end of the year are $4,182,000. In 2025, they were $708,131. And that is comprised of the 2017, 18, and 19 bond debt service reserve funds and a general fund account for excess city funds. So that's generated 708,000, and that equates to roughly $60,000 a month in interest earnings. That was page one. If we go to page two on your packet, you just see the bar chart of everything every month throughout 2025, and you kind of see how it kind of ebbs and flows based off of market conditions or amount of money that's available to invest. And there is your $708,000, and it comes to an average of $59,000 per month. So that's all done and performed well for you last year, and continues to do so in 2026.
Great. I have one question, Brad. So in September through December, the numbers are down a little bit, which is still nothing to sneeze at that we are making
Sure.
that kind of money. But is that because we have less invested, or are there market conditions that are leading to that decrease?
There have been some withdrawals, so there's a little bit less invested.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that the bond market in general has declined a little bit over the last solid year. So we've seen some interest rates decline. Some of that has to do with short-term rates declining because of the Fed lowering the Fed funds rate, which puts some downward pressure on short-term investments. So it's kind of a mix between the two.
Okay, great. Other questions from other members of the committee? Alderman Gould?
Just a follow up on that, but have you looked at the years that we've been doing this, and as far as I think last year was a little bit of an anomaly from what I can recall, in that the beginning half of the year seemed to be performing extraordinarily well, whereas what we see is maybe a dip at the end is maybe a little bit more comparable to what we had been seeing prior to last year. Is that accurate?
Well, it's been a unique market. Since June of 2022, the Fed raised the Fed funds rate, which caused upward pressure for those shorter term rates. And then in September of 24, they started to lower them. So they were just at unprecedented highs. Anything that you could invest during that time period. And because the Fed has started to lower the Fed funds rate, it's caused more money that's been sitting idle in cash because the rate has been so attractive. When that rate becomes less and less attractive, people are buying, they're moving their money elsewhere. So if it can take on risk, they're moving it to the stock market.
Right.
We've seen the stock market do very well.
Right.
If that money can't take risk, it's going into the bond market,
Right.
and that makes yields decline. So because short-term rates decline, that pushes money out of money market into other types of investments. Some of that money goes into longer-term bonds, all of which affect reinvestment returns. So, so that's why you've seen maybe some earnings a little bit higher over the last year or so than you're seeing now. But in addition to that, there's I believe there's a little bit less money to be invested because it's been needed for other expenditures.
Right, yeah, and I understand that. And just, we've talked about it in previous meetings, but just for public that might be listening, what they're seeing here is not losses, it's just not we have we're in a protected fund, I guess can you explain?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Any of the securities that the city is allowed to invest in is protected by a couple of measures. Number one is the state. The state has an investment policy that is an umbrella policy over all municipalities, and it will not allow you as a municipality to invest in any type of security that you could lose any of your principal. So that's number one. In addition to that, the city has its own investment policy that falls underneath that umbrella. And so the types of securities that you all are allowed to invest in are the safest types of securities in the world. U.S. Treasury bonds, U.S. government agency bonds. I call it boring and safe. So
And commercial,
only
can we do commercial paper?
you can do commercial paper up to 180 days, 6 months. The only thing that it can affect the earnings in your account is the amount of money that you have invested and the yield that the bond market is paying at the time. And that's a market-driven type of thing. And if money is not able to be reinvested, then that just means that it's needed and being used for other expenditures to make improvements for the city.
Thank you, well said.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Brad. We'll see you next month. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Second, under department report is the financial statements. Michelle?
Hi, good evening. I'll sort of piggyback on the back of what Brad said just for clarification. We did take some funds out last year to do alternate projects. That's exactly what it's called. To do alternate projects to the tune of about $1.8 million. And then we did get those funds back. I'm holding those in cash in a money market because we are preparing to take delivery of our fire truck. And I'm just making sure that cash-wise and cash flow-wise, before we decide to do further investments for the year, that we are prepared to make some of the bigger payments we knew were coming. So, and I believe we're still waiting on another bigger payment from FEMA and SEMA that we have yet to get. So there was some cash flow needs in order to do the alternate projects and purchase those items ahead of time, and we discussed that. So we did sort of take some of those funds out. I did also sort of want to clarify that he speaks about these large interest earnings, 4.1 million, also 708,000 within the year. A lot of those are attributed to the debt service monies. So those are restricted monies. General fund, as of November, had interest earnings of 225,000, I believe. So that's really where the core of it sits. So when they talk about, that way if we're all thinking, oh, look at all the interest we earned and it's sort of everywhere, it's not. It's not. The core of that 708 is restricted. We do have interest earnings among the other funds, and they're kind of lower, just depending on their cash flow and their cash needs. So we really probably run about 300, 350 within our operating accounts of interest earned. So hopefully that helps clarify some of these things. So we'll move on to November. We'll kind of touch on, we're getting towards the end of the year, and I say the end of the year, but the year for 2025 will sort of roll into January and February as we continue to move expenditures back and wait on the auditors to assist with revenue entries. So when we look at November, there still is there still are items that will change for December, but we can continue to track the mechanisms and sort of talk through some of this. The ad valorem taxes are starting to come in. We're waiting to sort of see what is the impact of the senior citizen tax freeze. And so we'll continue to watch that, but you can start to see it start to climb. And by the time we get to December, it's up to like 340. So we are seeing that impact. And like I said, the January deposit that we get from St. Louis County is actually December collections. So parts of that will come back as well. So that's why we wait to sort of close our books till about February. Sales tax continues to look low. There is that $415,000 that's sitting down in the insurance and adjustments. Once again, and that's part of that 1% adjustment from the TIFs that were closed. So it closes that gap a little more. We do continue to remain just skeptical on it. We're watching the information come out of St. Louis County, and they are delayed between software issues and staffing issues. And then the Missouri DOR is also sort of indicating that we have our top 9 that had major retailers within the city of Brentwood, and their tax deposits were not processed by November. So their November processing, they are indicating that there is delays on the MDOR side as well. They keep indicating that it could be 30 to 60 days for this catch-up period. If it lags too long, then it will actually start to be $26 and not $25. I know I keep standing up here since October saying I'm not worried. They continue to indicate that there is a delay in the processing at the Missouri DOR. I'm continuing to hold my hat on that. Let's see, use tax. Use tax continues to hold and hold well. By the time we get to December, which you don't have in front of you, but we've continued to monitor, we actually exceed the budgeted amount. So that sort of does indicate that we've got strong shopping. I don't think it's anything to sort of think that we're going to kill it, but we're not necessarily too far off on some of our assumptions. Cablevision, internally, we've had conversations about this. We will definitely lower this for the 2027 budget. Internally, we were talking that the charter payments we've been expecting are not going to come, and that the legislation is not attaching onto the streaming services. So some of those dollars are not going to be available. We'll make those adjustments as we watch 26 and definitely for the 27 budget. Fines have increased, and we did increase those for the 26 budget, and then we'll continue to monitor those. Ambulance fees, I do want to sort of touch on those. We've reconciled 22, 23, and 24 with the ambulance billing company. There is a $23,000 payment that's pending, but they did indicate that it would probably be closer to first quarter of 26 before we got it. So our assumptions weren't far off. We are once again in a timing delay. Part of that delay was with the government shutdown. Those were some of the highlights and lowlights in the revenue for the general fund. If you go to page 2, we have the insurance and settlements. We sort of earmarked what some of those were. We had the $415,000, which were part of the TIF. We have about $78,000, which was a slate refund from 2015. And then we had an AXA, which was a lawsuit deductible returned, about $250 returned to us. So that makes that up. That sort of has helped carrying us through to definitely meet this budget number by December. A couple of the expenses, just to sort of point out, is in utilities, and we're on page 3 under municipal operations. Some of these utilities are running high. We are in conversations with Missouri American Water about water usage at the fountain, and we currently have this in a claim status. So there was some high usage. They're indicating they think it may be a leak. We are indicating we don't find a leak, but we are definitely in a claim status for high billing and high usage. So, and then the legal fees, which everybody is fully aware of, that one is going to be one that's will just sort of impact overall for 25 as we continue to monitor this. No major highlights or lowlights. I mean, I think everything's kind of holding steady. If you end up in park stormwater, the park permits and the pavilion, I mean, the pavilion far exceeded its expectations for its budget, but I think we knew with traffic and foot traffic and its success that may be the case. Any questions?
Yeah, I will start. I have a question about the sales tax revenue. So, say it really does come in January, February. So at that point, if we can attribute it, how do the mechanics work? If we can attribute it to 25, do
The
we?
mechanics work as this. We are on what's called a modified accrual basis. And by that, it means we accrue expenses back. If they were a December expense and we get the bill in January, we accrue it back to December. And the same sort of goes for revenue received. And with the revenue received in January and February, if it's actually associated with December revenue or 25 revenue, we have 60-day window to bring it back, to accrue it back to the previous year.
So basically, we have through February.
Basically, we have through February.
So if these lags happen,
Yes.
then our revenue for last year will be lower. And then potentially, hopefully, the revenue for then 26 might be
They haven't-
artificially high because it
that is
is
correct.
counting part of the money that we should have received in 25.
Now that we have to be part of the conversation and the notes that we make internally and for staff as we go through our 26 prep for the 27 budget. Yes, try to make sure that we're understanding the data that we're reading, and that way we can project accordingly.
Okay, great. I just want to, we can't
Yes, ma'am.
overspend in 27 just because
No,
26 is
no,
artificially
yeah,
high.
there is. We continue, like I said, to get these updates that they're 30, 60 days behind, and they're processing. And that very well could be 26 funds or 25 funds. And right now it's a timing issue.
Other questions from other members of the committee? Alderwoman, yeah, Alderwoman Goad.
So I saw in the notes that 20% increase in our use tax collections. It was in I believe, the analysis portion.
Yes?
So that's been significantly overperforming.
That's 20% over what the 2024 audited number was. So when I look at this exact same time last year, we're 20% over. We adjusted our 25 budget to actually sort of match where we thought we would be. Our 25 budget is 1.6 million. We're 2% left to sort of collect. We do get there by December. But when I talk about 20%, we are 20% over where we were in 24 at this exact same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's if I'm seeing the numbers correctly, that's slightly offsetting our drop in sales.
Yeah, it sort of lets me know that the market still is strong, right? Like they're so I'm assuming that there are these top 9, 15 big vendors that have not been processed, like the big stores, that I would be hopeful that they have big dollars that should hit our sales tax number. That the processing of those is important.
dollars, hopefully. So,
Right?
the dollars I made.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you, Michelle.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda, the minutes from the November 6th meeting. Were there any changes to those minutes?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second. I think all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Well, minutes are approved. Old business. So the first item of old business is a proposed amendment to the vehicle commuting policy. And I think, Bola, you have this?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Alderwoman Vice. Can you hear me? Is it? So the Ways and Means Committee spent a lot of time last year reviewing the vehicle commuting policy and asked staff to make some significant changes to bring it up to date. And we consulted with the city's labor council. And so what you have before you are the categories that have been removed because these positions either no longer receive a monthly vehicle allowance, or those positions no longer exist in the city, or the city no longer participates in such program, for instance, the Drug Enforcement Administration. So those changes have been reflected in the policy document before you. There are different categories in the actual policy, insurance requirements, the individuals who are allowed or will be allowed to use city vehicles for business, or when they use their own vehicles for work for city paid work time, insurance requirements and the fact that they have to provide on an annual basis a copy of their driver's license so that we ensure that they're still licensed and allowed to drive on the roadway. What they do when they're in those vehicles in terms of radio communication system or cellular use, what the requirements are for operations, and just general operating policies. The fact that the city will inspect these vehicles on a regular basis through the Public Works Department, ensure that we are compliant with the IRS regulations, and when individuals are not, what are some of the disciplinary penalties that the city levy on those individuals. So Exhibit A lists all those positions that have take-home vehicles. And then Exhibit B is the vehicle policy employee acknowledgement. Once this policy is adopted by the Board of Aldermen, then Tangela Bell, HR manager, will ensure that all those employees sign this document.
Well, I'll just say thank you to you and Tangela and I guess outside counsel for working so hard to take our comments from the last meeting, and you seem to really have incorporated them, and it seems like a very thorough and thoughtful policy. Are there questions from members of the committee? Alderwoman Goode?
First of all, very nicely done. I love some of the streamlining, especially where you call out like only city employees and then go on to define that, including like the role of temporary or seasonal interns. I thought that was very nicely done to help define who's allowed to drive. My only question is, it looks like we're self-insured. Is there any benefit? I know in other policies, employees, it's usually done at time of employment. If they would be at time of employment, if they were to be issued a city vehicle, they're looked historically to see if they have any driving report or anything.
And we
just
would
to
check
help.
that. We would check that once they are hired, if they would be individuals in positions that are either A, allowed to take home vehicle, or allowed to drive a city vehicle. And then randomly, they are selected just to test, for drug use and alcohol use and different things like that. But we would check annually their driving record. And also this policy indicates that if there are infractions on their driver's license, that it would be nice of them to notify the city first before we find out.
Okay, so how far, I'm assuming 5 year, is it a 5-year look back, a 7-year look back, or?
I don't know what the look back is. I can ask Tangela to look into that, and then we'll send you a response. Or
Okay,
bring it up
perfect.
at the
And
next meeting.
it doesn't benefit, is there any benefit to us as far as insurance or costs of doing business by?
The look back, the number of years look
Yeah.
back. It's also a question for Thomas McGee, so I will ask them as well.
Okay, and I'm just thinking, I know of other policies where they do that for insurance purposes for the organization.
And if there is a 5-year look back and they find something, then
Then it becomes a different HR conversation.
Okay.
They might not be able, if it's a 5, it depends, are they looking at time of hire and they're issued a vehicle, and that would impact our insurance rates in such a way, or impact our ability or our need for self-insurance in a different way? Really, it's looking at risk.
when we do the insurance, I don't recall them asking for driver's license information. They just look for the number of vehicles, model year, how long we have it, things like that. And then they also have a list of all the employees as well.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's any correlation with, I'm pretty certain that they're not checking driver's license because that would be an exhaustive task for them to do for all the 27 members of SLAE.
Okay.
But we'll ask the question and come back.
And it's really around, new hires and making sure we're protected for a liability purpose if needed.
Other questions? No, okay. Any questions from anyone else? Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to forward the vehicle commuting policy on to the Board of Aldermen and recommend approval.
So moved. Second.
Do we need a vote here, or do you think, okay. Or do you want
Voice
to,
vote is fine, I
Oh.
think. Or what did you just say? Okay, there you go.
roll call, please?
Alderwoman Goode.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Erger.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Second item of old business is a SEMA reimbursement update. After the budget conversations, we do need money back.
It is time for my what appears to be annual FEMA and SEMA reimbursement update. As you know, we've been working with FEMA and SEMA since 2022 from the flood in July, and then we added the tornado from last year. And so for any new members who might not know, we are eligible for reimbursement for both those disasters. FEMA will cover 75%, SEMA 10%, and then the city's responsible for the last 15%. So the good news is last month we did receive a payment from SEMA, which was the FEMA payment of $1.3 million related to 2818 Breckenridge, which is all the alternate projects. So we did get that back, and that's wonderful. That leaves the Lee Wind Trail repairs. And when I talked to SEMA, they said that basically FEMA is doing their final review and that they should be anticipating closing out in the near future. They said that about 2018 for about 3 to 4 months. So while they're close in FEMA and SEMA terms are a little bit different than what I consider close, and definitely what the finance director considers close. But the good news is that we continue to plug along. I know there was concerns last year that would we receive this money back, and at least we did get the 1.3 back from that. For the tornado is we were able to get all the FEMA money back. And so that means that we're waiting for SEMA to close out the project completely, which means then we get the SEMA reimbursement because SEMA requires all the FEMA reimbursement be recognized first before they give their money back. So what I did was kind of put together a couple charts and kind of give you the rundown, which is basically for the 2022 flood, we're still expecting a little under $1.4 million, and I kind of break it down by fund. Primarily, most of that is going into Fund 40, with a little bit of dollars still going into Fund 10, and then some in Fund 50. And then in 2025, we're still expecting about $12,600, and that's almost evenly split between Fund 10 and Fund 50. So we continue to work with them. I continue to pester them. My contact in SEMA, when I usually email her, is like, oh, it's my 2-week reminder that I need to tell you that nothing's changed. And I'm like, yes, please. So we continue to work on it. SEMA's been, actually, I mean, they've been really nice. They put up with my annoyance of them on a regular basis. But my hope is that we will get this done in the first, second quarter of this year so I can finally stop bringing this update to you guys.
So I'll just say thank you for staying on this. This is you've been working on this for years and years, and it's important revenue for our city and important changes that we have been able to accomplish because of these reimbursements. So thank you. And then it's a little of a question for Michelle, but I think you can probably answer it just for the general knowledge. This because we have these amounts of money, we have to do a slightly different audit. Is that?
Yes, we'll have to do, anytime we receive federal dollars of over $1 million, we have to do a single audit. We're hoping that this would be our last single audit of 25. Thankfully for Michelle, I let her have to do another one in 26 because we'll receive more than that with this year's reimbursements, hopefully. So we're looking at single audits in 25 and 26. And then hopefully we'll get a nice SDT grant in 27, so she'll have to do another one. So keep making sure that she has to do single audits every year.
Yeah, well, if the money comes in, then that's a price to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Are there questions from the committee for Eric? Thank you for the update. We have one item of new business. It's the agenda management system, so which we love so much. Octavia.
Yes, so we are seeking approval to enter into an agreement with Civic Plus for the implementation of agenda management system. So the city previously implemented board docs for this service. However, last year they transitioned to the Diligent community platform. And since that time, staff has experienced some challenges, we'll say, with their functionality and, our processes and workflow. So one of my first projects since rejoining the team was to research an alternative. And as a result of that research, we are presenting to you Civic Plus. We currently use Civic Plus, though, for our website management, and so we're hopeful, that this would allow a more efficient transition. And after undergoing, multiple demonstrations, staff also believes it aligns with the city's workflow and processes. There was a request for the board to undergo some demonstrations, and I have confirmed that that opportunity is available. I couldn't get it done today, of course, it was kind of short notice when it was asked, but I will coordinate timing of everything with that. And with that, we are recommending today just a motion to forward to the Board of Aldermen for approval, contingent on the successful outcome of a demonstration to the Board of Aldermen.
Are there questions? I know Alderman Gould was the, I think,
Yeah,
the
no, I
instigator of the
Yes,
request for
yes,
the demonstration.
Sorry for the late request of that yesterday, but the reason that I made the request was, having known that, we didn't love board docs, but there were some functions that we got used to and worked out. We certainly have had some challenges with Diligent. If we go to a new platform, I don't want to just move frustrations and challenges to something, we just want to make sure that I know there's no perfect system out there, and there's always going to be some challenges that aren't going to be met. But on the whole, if we are making a change, I just wanted to make sure that the demonstration is there, that it meets the needs. I'm less concerned with the fact that they also manage our website. I think it's nice if there's some continuity there, but knowing that in the future, maybe we look at other website management if there's, so I don't want to get tied too much to a system that we make a decision just because they're the ones that manage our website. So, future proofing, want to make sure that
And
the
I don't
system.
think that's the reason. They were
Right.
just the ones out of the three, is it three that we tested, that we got recommendations from as well?
Yeah.
Where others seem to like it. So in terms of workflow and access for you all when you pull up items, we think this will work better. But there are so many others out there. It's just what we seem to like.
Yeah, no, and that's great. As the board making a decision on it, I'd love to at least see a short demonstration and some examples of the interface, so that because that's kind of the challenge that we all have with Diligent, is not easy to work with. And then, so to me, that's more important. And then the fact that it does maybe connect or communicate with the website management, that's an add-on.
Plus,
That's a
yeah.
plus, right? So, okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? Alderwoman Gould? I was going to get through the whole meeting. Alderwoman Gould.
Are any other neighboring municipalities using the system, and have they expressed positive reviews of it?
Actually, who did you talk to?
So I did talk to a couple of them, and I can get you a list of the different municipalities. But one of the things that I did was I reached out to the different city clerks to find out which system that they were using. And that's kind of how I started my search, which is where, like I said, where I got the three that I did tests from. There's another system that I was familiar with. I didn't bring that one into the fold just because I wasn't all that happy with that one myself. So, why test that one again if I already know the outcome of it?
So to your question, neighboring communities, I think when we started using this agenda management system, we were probably one of the first in our immediate area that was using this. I think there's a neighboring city that used Google Docs, so it's a little different from what we use. I don't know what the other neighboring cities are using, but when we did the survey, we didn't get a response from them that helped us, with our research. So some of the cities that we're looking at are in St. Charles County, some are in North County, some are in Illinois, actually. And some are other agencies like the Missouri Historical Society, school districts. So there's a variety of users out there. And
Others in the greater metro who can give
Yes.
you a firsthand, a lived experience.
even the city attorney weighed in.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, and that's important for the city attorney to be able to
That's true. That is very important.
find the documents and read them. So I guess I'll make a recommendation to approve the recommendation to enter an agreement with Civic Plus as the implementation of the agenda management system, contingent on, to the full board, contingent on the demonstration results.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
All in, this doesn't seem like, this seems like, all in favor?
Aye.
All right?
Aye.
Roll call at the last one, so I don't,
We'll do a roll call.
You want a roll call? Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Alderwoman Gold,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Erger,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Moves us along to citizen comments. No one has joined us in the room. Is there anyone online with a hand raised? Great. Well, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.